Good morning, everyone. Good morning, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Otto Valenzuela, and I'm your moderator for today's session of the 2020 Entrepreneur Summit. This is our 9th annual e-summit and our very first year bringing the event online. We're incredibly excited, and we hope you are too. In a few minutes, you'll hear from our workshop sponsor and panelists. First, a few housekeeping rules. You'll be able to ask your questions through the Q&A feature on the Zoom control panel. We will select questions to be addressed live by our guest, or we'll type a response for all other attendees to see. If we type a response, your question will appear to others too. For this session, we will have a brief Q&A break after each speaker. Please share your questions as they come up. This webinar is being recorded. Within 24 hours, you will receive a link to this recording as well as our event survey. Please complete the survey for this webinar to share your experiences and help us improve. We ask that you please mute your device when you're not speaking, and please silence your phones. Now I'd like to turn it over to our workshop sponsor, Eris Sandler, Market President for Bank United.
Thank you, Otto. It's such a pleasure to be here, and welcome to the Hispanic Unity of Florida's 9th annual Entrepreneur Summit. And I've been to many of them, but this is the first one I've been to virtual style. So a little bit different for all of us, huh? Again, my name is Eris Sandler. I'm the market executive for Bank United in Broward County. And we are honored to have you all here today. And we are even more thrilled to be sponsoring this workshop, this Women-Led Businesses Leadership During a Contagion, which this is definitely a very, very timely panel discussion, and one that I'm sure you will all enjoy. But first, just a smidge about Bank United. We are a national bank. We're headquartered here, right here in Miami Lakes. And Bank United has nearly $35 billion in total assets. We're located predominantly in Florida and New York, but we have locations throughout the country. And we are one of the largest independent financial institutions headquartered right here in Florida. We provide a wide range of commercial and consumer products and services, but really our sweet spot is focused on helping businesses very much like yours grow through financial support. We offer loans, commercial loans of all kinds, lines of credit, owner-occupied, term loans, and so on, equipment loans. We offer great deposit products, both commercial and consumer. We offer great treasury services to help with the efficiency of your business, and so on. And we're even doing business, very much so, even during this pandemic, during the times that we're in. So with that, I'd like to now turn our attention to our panelists. And believe me, you are going to really enjoy it, because the goal for today's session is to ensure that you get informed, connected, but above all, inspired. And I will tell you that I know our panelists today on a personal level, and you are installed for all of that and more. First of all, as you see on the screen, is Barbara Goldberg. She's founder and CEO of O'Connell & Goldberg, one of Florida's top public relation firms, celebrating 27 years in business this year. Next, our next panelist is Janae Capella, president and founder of Capella Leadership Solutions, a consulting firm specializing in leadership training and organizational effectiveness. Our next panelist is my friend Sherry Roth, a co-founder of Capital Idea, an executive coach, helping clients to drive performance, engagement, and profit. And then finally, we have Dr. Barbara Sharif, President Director of Nursing of South Florida Pediatric Home Care, one of the top home health care agencies in both Broward and Miami-Dade counties, for the care of children and adults with complex medical issues. So with that, I'm going to turn over the Zoom call to our moderator, Otto, who will get the panel discussion started. Thank you.
Thanks so much for that, Eris. Thanks so much for introducing our panelists. Now let's get started. We're going to begin our first question for Barbara Goldberg. Barbara, accessing capital, fighting gender stereotypes, and balancing aspects of personal and business life are some of the issues borne by women more than their male counterparts. You've created and led a business for more than 25 years. We hear about these challenges in general, but what are some of the challenges you faced personally? Did you overcome them? If so, how? If not, how did you cope? What recommendations do you have for those facing similar challenges?
Thank you, guys, and good to be here this morning. So I guess I'll give you my story, and then I can share with you the challenges I faced and some tips I used to overcome them that might be relevant to all of you. So I guess my story starts 27 years ago, kind of half my life now that I think about it. I was working at a large PR firm in Miami, which was a wonderful shop, but it just wasn't growing, and it wasn't embracing change. It was stuck in its old ways. And one day the president of that agency announced that she was leaving, and I was just devastated. I was just young, starting out a couple years, and she was my mentor, my role model. So it was my new husband. I just had gotten married. My husband who actually encouraged me to take a leap and start my own agency. Ironic that it took a male's perspective to get me to trust my own instincts. So it was a kind of a gutsy call. I was young. I figured I had nothing to lose. I sought out a male partner, which I thought was a strategic decision, someone who also worked at the agency and was older than I was. I thought the yin yang of having that older partner and a younger one together would be a good move. So we met, loved the idea. We mapped out kind of a strategy, and we decided to start our own business. And then some months later, I got pregnant. Now what? So I had this new business just starting with a partner who left a solid career in his own to take a chance on building something new from the ground up. He was in his 40s, he had a son, a mortgage, and I had to prove that I was serious about this new venture, willing to put the time in and the energy it would take to grow it. And now I was pregnant with my first child. So I convinced him that I was 100% invested, would not detract from our goals, full in. I would find help. I would take my minimal maternity leave. I would work from home just for those few weeks and then jump right back in the game. And he agreed. All was good. Until about 2 months later, I learned I was pregnant with not just one, but I was having twins. Completely unexpected and threw me for a complete loop. There went my plan, my whole, the whole system that I worked so hard to master. So I mustered the nerve to break this news to my male partner, thinking we were doomed. He was going to bail. Fortunately, I convinced him that I was not going to bail. I was in this and as invested as ever before. Might need to extend my maternity leave just a little bit longer, but I was in. So I would call forming this new business while giving birth to multiple babies, dealing with the physical and mental anxieties of just that in and of itself, the stresses, the pressures, all of that to be my biggest career challenge. Convincing a new business partner that I was serious, growing this business while now managing a family of 4 that I didn't have before. It meant I had to find childcare. It meant I had to prove to my male counterparts and male clientele, very important, that I was focused on this business and I was not going to leave them high and dry. And at the same time, I had to navigate the guilt and try to juggle with all that comes with doing both, finding balance. So fast forward 27 years, I would say, okay, we overcame those challenges. I now have 3 beautiful daughters who are 25, and 19. They survived and thrived. So my tips, if I could be so kind, I'll share them with you that worked for me. I've kind of summarized them to 5. The first and foremost is to find your allies. Surround yourself with people who support your business decisions and your family decisions and allow you to just have that positivity. Find friends and relatives who won't give you guilt for trying to balance both. It's tough. I mean, my own mother, who I loved dearly, thought my decision to return to work while raising twin baby girls was a little selfish, and she was disappointed in that. And that was rough. That was really hard for me. She eventually came around, and yes, she was quite proud of this career, but it took her a long time to publicly acknowledge it. So you just have to kind of find your people that are going to support you through what will be a challenging road ahead. Number 2 is to outsource. Find your help. If you can't afford full-time help at home, there are so many services, especially now, that can save you time. And pick and choose the tasks that require your brain and delegate the stuff that does not. It means tapping into babysitters, asking for help, being willing to allow others to village you with, join your village of child raising. It does take more than just a few. Try to appreciate the time you're in. Also very challenging. As hard as it is when you're in your work environment, try to appreciate that fact that you're having adult conversations, you're staying relevant, you're in the moment. And when you're with your children, try to embrace that as well. Turn off the phones and be there and be present. It's really challenging now with everything is 24/7. The other tip that worked for me was to try to not compare yourself to others, as hard as that is. None of us know the other struggles that other people are enduring. It all may look great on social media, but everyone goes through their hard times, and we just can't compare. Otherwise, you'll just be in a cycle of never-ending wishes. And then finally, accept imperfection. Something will have to give, and let it give. It's okay. You won't always have a perfectly clean house or a perfectly successful career with perfectly flawless kids and amazing marriage. At some point, something will ebb and flow. You can only do so much. So navigating that balance is a challenge, but well worth it. So those are the 5 tips that took me probably 27 years to learn, but still am juggling and enjoying the fact that we as women have an opportunity to do both. And it just always won't work perfectly, but usually when your heart's in it and you have a little bit of forgiveness, it will go as it should. So trust your gut instincts. Thank you.
Thanks so much for all of that, Barbara. Very pertinent information. We're going to open it up to our attendees if they have questions. We're going to take a few minutes. Please use the Q&A feature on your device to type in your question. We may read them out loud, try to respond to them. We could respond to them by text as well. If we do, they'll be viewed by all. I'll take a few moments here to get some questions. Barbara, an attendee asked, do you have any regrets? What would you do over if you had a chance?
That's a good question. I would say the only regret would be work related, that I maybe should have said no to a business meeting that wasn't entirely necessary, that perhaps I should have stayed home that night with my children. The business call would have been fine without me there. I think I overcompensated in the beginning to make sure that I was so present. But when you look back, you'll never wish you spent more time at the office, and you'll never wish you spent more time working. You will always wish you spent more time with your kids. So I was truly focused on being at every school event and every doctor appointment and every function I could. But there were probably some unnecessary meetings that in retrospect, I should have just had the enough strength to say, nope, I'm sitting that one out. Partner, you got that.
And one more, I'm afraid of hiring outside help with COVID. What else can I do for support?
Interesting. Well, certainly I did all this before COVID was even something we all heard of. It's just crazy. I would say that there are online services that can help you. Delegate the stuff that doesn't require your time and energy. Do not go to a food store. Let the food come to you. Make sure you can delegate anything that online shopping can handle or online services can do. So you can just streamline what you're focused on and make sure it's only your family and only your work, and the rest just has to go. I would just prioritize those 2 things in this land of COVID. If you cannot have another human help you physically, understandably, then just make sure you delegate anything that doesn't require your thought process. Let it go. TaskRabbit it, or get it someone to help you with anything that's just not your creative energy.
Mom guilt is real. How did you manage it?
Still have it. You never get rid of it. It's right now I have it. It's crazy. It never ever goes away. I think the best thing I did was aligned myself with others who were in my shoes. I found working moms to be a great venting source. They understood my challenges. You need some sort of support group like that. I felt when I associated myself with the moms who didn't work, I felt terrible. I was not baking those cookies for their school projects. I was buying them. I wasn't doing those art projects to the levels that those other moms were doing, and it felt worse. So I just quietly put those over there and tried to surround myself with circles of support who were in similar situations. It's a little pick and choosy, but you kind of have to find your support group that understands what you're going through. So I just tried my hardest to align myself with people who are in situations like me so that they could help boost you up on those days where it's really difficult.
Thanks so much, Barbara. And attendees, thank you very much for your questions. We're going to move on to our next panelist now, Janae Capella. Janae, a question for you. You help organizations and individuals discover and apply their strengths to achieve their goals, whether it's an engaged company culture, effective programs, or career advancement. What are some of the characteristics of organizations or individuals who are resilient in times of crises? What can a busy business owner do to tap into these strengths? What exercises, techniques can entrepreneurs use today to begin developing habits of leadership?
Thanks, Otto. So resilience is the ability to operate under pressure. And this has always been a quality of high-performing leaders, but we're seeing now that this is essential to leadership and business success in the current climate, right? So individuals and organizations that aren't able to demonstrate resilience just can't be successful in these changing times and current economic climate. So the good news is that there are things that you can do as a business leader to become more resilient. So I'm going to share with you very quickly 3 characteristics of resilient leaders, some tips and thoughts in terms of how you can develop resilience, and then a couple of tools you can use after this conference. Okay, so the first quality is that resilient leaders are adaptable and they're able to leverage available opportunities. They're willing to acknowledge that things have changed, as we know things have now, and they look for new ways of doing things. It's no longer business as usual. I have a colleague who likes to use the term pivot plan. We need to be able to pivot. And I have a personal example of this that I experienced at the beginning of the pandemic. At the time, I was working with a client and a nonprofit organization, and they had the opportunity to participate in a virtual fundraiser, and they chose not to do so because they wanted to wait until they could hold their in-person event, because that's what they've always done, right? And they wanted to wait and do what they were used to doing. Meanwhile, I'm volunteering with another organization where every year I co-chair an annual fundraising event. And our event was scheduled for April 25th. And we knew a few weeks prior to that the event was not going to be able to happen in person. And soon enough, the venue told us that they had to close. So we were able in about 3 weeks to transition the program to a virtual format, and we actually ended up netting close to the same amount as we would if we had had the event in person, because we didn't have expenses. So that was amazing and such a win for the organization. To me, just demonstrates the difference in resiliency, right? So one organization lost out on an opportunity because they didn't leverage an opportunity, where another one was able to continue to be successful. And that organization continues to adapt to change and demonstrate resilience. So resilient leaders, adaptable and able to leverage available opportunities. Second characteristic, resilient leaders are emotionally intelligent and develop strong networks of support. And Barbara mentioned this a little bit as well. So the end goal of emotional intelligence is to create mutually beneficial relationships, right? So leaders with high EQ are concerned with the success of others, not just the success of themselves. They support others whenever they can, and they continually work to build relationships and expand their sphere in the community. So I know personally, I've worked very hard to develop strong networks of support, and it's so clear to me how important this is. When I launched my business, 6 years ago, 100% of my new business was referral based. And I'm not going to lie, the first few weeks of quarantine, I was really worried about how I was going to adapt, how I was going to change in terms of what I do. My clients, I actually have increased my workload and client level in the past 3 months. And again, 100% of that work is referral based. So it just continues to demonstrate to me how important it is to build relationships, look to help others, not just to help yourself. And, we really need to think about how we do that in these changing times when we don't have the ability to interact with people face to face the same as we did, 6 months ago. And then finally, and Barbara mentioned on this a little bit as well, resilient leaders focus on their overall well-being. You can't help others if you're not taking care of yourself. So this means taking care of your physical health and emotional health, as well as your professional health and investing in your professional development. It includes finding productive outlets for how you handle stress and also maintaining a positive mindset. Okay, so how can you improve your resilience as a business leader? First, accept that change has happened. That seems really easy to do. I am thinking of, business book from ages ago, Who Moved My Cheese? Have to accept that things have changed in order to pivot and come up with a new plan. Once you're able to accept change, you're able to look for new opportunities that you're able to leverage, which doesn't just help you, but it helps the clients and the people you're serving. So second, continue to build supportive, mutually beneficial relationships. And that's something, looks very different now than it did before. How are you continuing to maintain the relationships you have, the people personally as well as professionally in your life who are important to you and who you can help? And what new ways do you have to develop new relationships? I mean, for me, one of the things I'm doing is stretching myself to participate in things like this so that I'm able to meet other people, connect with people I know, by name or haven't seen in a while. What are things that you can be doing to connect with others outside of your household, especially if you're working primarily from home? And then finally, set aside time for professional development and personal well-being each day. This is so important that you're creating balance in your life, whether that's for you exercise, meditation, whatever's meaningful to you, but taking the time for yourself. For me, I've actually started meditating, which my friends who know me laugh at me for because it's just so outside of who I was a year ago, but it has so helped me manage my stress. And the first few weeks of the pandemic, I was not sleeping. I just could not sleep. I'm doing a 10-minute meditation before I go to bed, and I've been sleeping so well. So it's about finding what works for you, but acknowledging that just because you're working from home or working virtually, not at the office, that doesn't mean you spend more time working. It means that you get done what you need to do, focus on your priorities and where you can leverage your talents the best. Like Barbara said, outsource or find help to do those other tasks that aren't using your talents to the best of your ability. And then making time for yourself and what's important for you. So 3 quick resources you might want to consider, and I think someone is going to share these in the chat as well so you can see them. There's a book and a website, Well-Being, The 5 Essential Elements. Highly recommend it. It provides an overview of the areas in our life where we need to have balance in order to experience overall well-being, and then gives self-assessment activities and tips for improving your overall well-being. Love it, refer to it often in trainings and also personally. So Well-Being, The 5 Essential Elements. Emotional Intelligence 2.0, another resource. Emotional Intelligence 2.0, book available online. It provides an easy understanding overview of what emotional intelligence is and gives clear learning exercises where you can increase your EQ. And then also, if you're interested, I have a variety of leadership development resources on my blog, on my website, CapellaLeadershipSolutions.com. All right, and with that, I think my time is up. So I'm turning it back over to you, Otto. Thank you.
Thank you, Janae. And we're gonna open it up to our attendees for questions for Janae. You could use the Q&A feature on your device to type in your questions. We'll try to get some of them answered. Janae, someone asked, I've always been a worrywart. Have you worked with people like me, and what has worked for them to have a more positive outlook?
I live with anxiety every day, and it took me a long time to realize that's what I was experiencing. I worry about everything. Honestly, exercise and meditation has really helped me focus on being in the moment, and mindfulness exercises. And again, going back, Barbara mentioned this as well, the importance of focusing on what you're doing in the moment. It is so hard for me, even right now, to be present because there's so many other things I feel like I should be doing or want to be doing. But what I tell myself is that if I'm going to give my best at this moment, I need to be fully present. So that might be something to help you in terms of what are you actually trying to accomplish? And you're not doing that to the best of your ability unless you're fully present in that. And then on the more technical side of things, I have a very intricate system for how I plan and organize my day to make sure that I know I'm doing what I need to do. Because when I'm organized and planned, then I can alleviate some of that anxiety because I know I'm prepared.
Janae, someone asked for recommendations for meditation apps. Perhaps you could put that in the chat to share with attendees. And someone else asked, it is so difficult to disconnect from work when working from home. Do you have any tips on how to do this?
See, I just got distracted because I was starting to type my response to the first part of the question. The second part of the question again, please.
It's so difficult to disconnect from work when working from home. Do you have any tips on how to do this?
For me, I actually calendar when I'm doing things when I'm not working, and I force myself to walk away from my computer. I normally don't bill hourly, or by time increments, but something I've started doing is trying to approach my work from a time increment perspective on my calendar, because that way I've seen where I've been wasting time. And I will spend a lot of time just checking my email and going through my email and rereading my emails without actually working on them. So I've forced myself to stop doing that, and also to prioritize other things. So for me, again, very calendar driven. I have to have things outlined. I'll actually calendar my meditation. I'll calendar block off this time for cleaning the house or exercising, to make sure that I'm not doing busy work that doesn't need to be done. And also find things that you enjoy in the house. You know, sometimes I just take a quick break, go upstairs, say hi to my kitty cats, and that renews me and gives me energy to come back and do some work.
Thanks for all of that, Janae. Attendees, thank you for your questions. Janae has put the resources in the chat, so please make sure to check that later. We're going to move on to our next panelist, Sherry Roth. Sherry, a question for you. You help organizations simplify complex problems into effective solutions. I'd like to get your thoughts on the following. First, is there a theme in the type of problems faced by women-led businesses? In your experience, how has the COVID-19 pandemic impacted these problems unique to women-led businesses? Have they made them worse, lessened them, eliminated them? Lastly, what are some conventional and unconventional components of the approaches to resolve these challenges?
Well, good morning. Good morning, Otto. Thank you for the questions, and thanks everyone for being here. The first question about the common challenges that women face, in hearing Barbara and Janae, you hear, some of the commonalities. It's incredible in where we are in the 21st century with women, just growth in women-owned businesses, and seeing how many participants we have on this conference this morning. Women are becoming entrepreneurs at a very fast pace. The common challenge, one of the biggest things, and it's hard to believe, that we still have the biases that existed in the past. Being taken seriously as a woman entrepreneur is still out there, whether it's a conscious or unconscious bias. And, with that, you hear from Barbara, you hear from Janae, and I hear from my clients and in research that women have to try harder. They try to really prove and demonstrate themselves and handle so much to be successful. And when we look at being serious, that's one of the things that is a challenge for women to gain access to capital. And when they can't get access to capital, it's really difficult to grow. So glad to have Eris and Bank United here to support us, because one of the things that women entrepreneurs can do is really to connect with financial institutions and financial sources early on. Too often women wait for everything to be perfect or to have something strong to demonstrate and then get the capital. Build relationships so that when you are ready or in need, you've already had that opportunity and built those relationships, and get guidance from these financial institutions and financial advisors to support you in that. The other thing that you heard that's common with women is trying to be everything and do everything throughout, being the entrepreneur, worker, trying hard, but also doing everything at home. All the things that Janae pointed out, she has her calendar, putting everything in place so everything is perfect. Barbara's sharing all the struggles. I too, I had 2 boys, and I also have 2 stepsons, trying to manage everything. And when women have to travel or have to do a special project, the first thing they look at is their calendar, is what game is being played, what teachers conference has to happen, how is the homework going to be done. Trying to have balance, it's really, really difficult for women. So now we move into COVID-19, and that impacted everybody. I mean, and not only did it impact everybody around the world, it impacted everyone in a flat, like just a hard stop. So then women who had everything planned and built structures for things to be right, now that all went away. So the predictable now is, how do we create and work in the unpredictable? Our households became offices, became schools, became playgrounds, and became restaurants. Everything happened in the household, and we were all together. I have a neighbor, 2 working at home and 3 children, all at middle school, high school. How do they manage, and who thinks about it? The woman. And she's being an entrepreneur. And imagine 90% of business that women-owned businesses, 90% are solo entrepreneurs. So they're carrying the load of their entire business, plus looking at how they can keep their all these things happening in their household. The thing that has to happen in this case is that everything's not going to be perfect. Focus in, like was talked about, focus in on what's happening today. Look to see, because we don't know what next week's going to be. You think about going to school and planning what getting the school supplies and all the, I used to think about the different outfits or the uniforms. Everything is changing. So you really just have to focus in on today. The superwoman syndrome needs to be dismantled, and really trying to think about, how can you feel good? How can you make your family feel good? And we will come out of this. One of the, I would say the upside of the COVID, we've learned that perfection is not going to happen. I mean, when I would do a presentation, everything had to be perfect, knew, exactly what I was going to say, and never, there was never anything unpredictable. Today, we're on Zoom. It wouldn't surprise me, and one of our participants, whether even a panelist, which has happened to me, have the doorbell ring, dog bark, things happen that you just can't control. Well, that's what's happening with our business. We want to make sure that we feel comfortable with where we are. And when I say that, comfortable where we are, comfortable with the uncomfortable. And when you ask about, what's conventional, unconventional approaches, some of the things we talked about, Janae is doing meditation. I cannot tell you how many people are turning to that, and it's making a difference. Because what's so important in all of this is our mindset. We are stressed, worried, concerned. We are not going to be able to think about the things and that we need to do to move things forward. Because when we're stressed, our minds aren't creative. So we're busy doing things, and it's not getting us anywhere. So it is, when we talk about what can we do, the first thing that I recommend is really take that pause. Take that time to reflect for yourself, feed yourself, whether it's meditation, exercise, chatting, just having a chat with a girlfriend or family member. I value being productive. So when I make a call, it needs to be, okay, what is going to be the cost benefit of this time making the call? No, just have time to just relax, enjoy, and just have, feel good. When you can laugh and relax, and then come back and now start reflecting on what you can do and create, you'll be amazed on the new ideas that show up. Just like what Janae was talking about, take it and have a virtual conference. Be forward thinking, taking action, but it takes first time to step away, reflect, do something that you can enjoy, replenish yourself, and come up with something new. And then lastly, take action. One of the things that we don't do is, unless it's perfect, unless we have all the lights are green and everything's figured out, we don't take action. Give it a try, because today in COVID, we're able to take new actions, try something, pivot. That's, a couple words we all hear now is pivot. No, just try something, reflect on it again, and then create, and then keep taking action and keep it in shorter increments. So that's the few things that talk about and the challenges that women have and the things that we can do in this time of COVID.
Thank you, Sherry. And we have time for a couple of questions for you. If you'd like to put in your questions in the Q&A for Sherry. Sherry, someone asked, since working from home, my days are longer and less efficient because of all the distractions you mentioned, the doorbell, the dog barking, as well as caring for my family who is home now. I'm exhausted and I don't have any time for myself. When, where, and how does this pause happen?
That's such a great question because it takes intentionality. We get to own this time. We don't have to wake up earlier or go to sleep later. What we need to do, and the opportunity, there's a couple things. One is decide what's going to give you that joy. It doesn't have to be an hour or 2 hours. Something, 10, 15 minutes can make such a difference. Decide what that is. Decide when you want to do it. And then enroll other people in your family and let them know, hey, I would love if you can help me out here. Or is it okay? Maybe everything that you're trying to do doesn't have to be exactly done at that time, and you could let some things go. Because unless you do, it's not going to happen. I have a client that, she works in the travel industry, stressed beyond belief. It was crazy. And, just called me all and, talking about all the stress. Really, when we talked about it, shared about making that time, a fun time was to have a glass of wine, a virtual connection with some girlfriends. When she started doing one thing, and this is probably the best key, is say, I'm going to do one thing for myself, and I'm going to take 2 minutes. Just 2 minutes. Not a big, grandiose thing. You'll find that once you take that 2 minutes, you'll give yourself some more time. And then you'll be able to feel so much more relaxed. You have to switch that lever because you're on that big hamster wheel.
Thank you, Sherry, and thank you for your questions. We're going to have to move on to our next speaker, Dr. Barbara Sharif. Dr. Sharif, a question for you. For more than 19 years, your company has been providing home health care to children and adults with complex medical issues. What are some of the challenges you faced personally as a woman business owner? Did you overcome them? If so, how? If not, how did you cope? What recommendations do you have for those facing similar challenges?
Hi, good morning. Thanks for having me. So I'm going to say that the biggest challenge that I faced as an entrepreneur was financing. I feel like I had to try so much harder than men to get financing. I wrote a short manuscript, and it was called A 780 Credit Score and a Dream. And the reason why I wrote that was because when I first started looking for financing for my business, everybody kept saying, oh my God, you have such a great credit score. You should be an easy person to get financing. Well, it wasn't so easy, and I think that in the beginning, because I knew what my dream was, I visualized that. I had worked in corporate America for Fortune 500 companies, and I was doing it for myself, and I was very successful at that. But I think getting the buy-in from bankers and from other people that you might have to use for consulting services or vendors is really difficult for women. The way that I overcame those challenges was I ended up taking my savings, all of what I had saved up, and I put it into my business. And when I put that into my business, I think that it showed people, hey, you know what? She's really serious about this. So I took $375,000 of my retirement account and rolled it into my business because I knew that I could build what I built. And I think that in the beginning, what's challenging for women is financing, knowing where you're going to get the money from, and then also being willing to put it on the line. The SBA has a rule that they want you to put some skin in the game if they give you money. So all lenders are doing that now. And so that's going to be like the new norm. You're going to have to come up with something substantial to put behind yourself so that someone else feels comfortable backing you. And so I did that and ended up, as a result of that, getting matched money. And today I started off it was me and my mother in a 400 square foot office. And I was doing all the patient visits and working through everything. And by the time my first year ended, I think I'd hired 20 or 30 nurses, and I was making a profit. And we tripled, doubled, quadrupled every other year. I'm 19 years in, and I have roughly about 300 registered nurses and professionals on the street right now. Our numbers went down due to COVID, but we had to kind of adjust. And I think that part of being in management and entrepreneurship is you do have to have that ability to adjust, just like Janae said. For us, our big adjustment was we take care of ventilator-dependent kids in the home. And we were normally used to taking care of those kids with minimal PPEs, gloves, mask only if we're doing sterile procedures, because we want the kids to see our face. Now, our new normal is a gown, a mask, a glove, a shield, a face shield. And that's the way we come to work. So it kind of changed it a little bit, but then at the same time, we kind of use that for a positive, because our parents are saying, my company cares and they're protecting my kids. And so I think that if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you have to be willing to be able to adjust to change and be able to accept that and understand that your company can't grow unless you're willing to do that. And then one of the other things that I do, which they call me the calendar queen and the spreadsheet queen. Why? Everything's on the spreadsheet, color coordinated, and I have a planner which I plan kids' activities, my activities, I plan my sleep, I plan what I'm gonna do when I exercise, I plan when I'm gonna take my daughter to Target at night, so that way I don't put anything else on the schedule. And I think it's really important because I am a single mother. I've got 3 girls, 2 of which are in college and pre-med at UCF. I've got a 13-year-old here in the house, and they demand my time. And I think that it's really, really easy to let those years pass by and say, hey, you know what? They'll be okay. I have to get to that next meeting, or I have to make that next deal. They're going to be okay. They're going to be right there. And you turn around and they've grown 3 feet because you're so busy growing your business. And so for me, I had to make a choice to get that balance, and that my balance came in the form of plotting out my time on a daily basis. The last and final point of information that I'm going to leave you with is a lot of people get so busy that they delegate financial portions of their business, okay? You should never be too busy to watch your own money, okay? Let's get this straight. Never give somebody control of your money. And you must be able to look at your money on a daily basis. And I balance my checkbook daily, okay? I know that that sounds excessive, but when these times like this hit, you need to know where you're starting from. You need to know how much of a cushion you have to survive it. And you need to know what it's gonna take. If you don't get another dollar in today, do you have enough money to run your business? And a lot of people can't answer that question because they go hire a secretary or they hire an office manager and they delegate control and authority of their money. I am here to tell you that is the worst decision you could ever make as a business owner. When the bank comes and they ask you for your financials, they should always be prepared. You should have your financials prepared at the end of every quarter. You should pay your taxes on time. And most importantly, you have to take care of your credit score. Right now, I'm 19 years later, I'm still in business, and my credit score right now is an 848, an 835, and an 836 on all 3 credit bureaus. You have got to take care of your credit, because when you need to look for money, you have to look and you have to work a little bit harder. So if you're a woman and you're carrying those type of credit scores, you can walk into a bank and you can say, I'm bankable, I'm a low risk, I take care of my money, I know how much money I have, and oh, by the way, here's my accountant prepared financials. That's why they call me the spreadsheet queen. And so that's what I'll end with, and that's what I'll impart to you.
Thank you very much for all of that, Dr. Sharif. We're going to open it up to questions from our attendees. If you'll use the Q&A feature on your device to type in your questions for Dr. Sharif. We have one here, Doctor. How do you know when it's a good time to obtain financing? We have applied for SBA and are nervous about taking on extra debt. What are some good business investment tips?
So the first thing is what is the interest rates and what's the term of the loan? That's going to be number one. Right now, there are some fantastic SBA products out there. Number one, if you have debt, you need to be looking at an SBA 7A refinance loan. That loan right now will give you a period of 6 months where the SBA will actually pay your debt for you in the grant form, and you can get terms up to 10 years on the debt that you have now at 3.75% interest. So look for those types of programs. The next program that I would suggest, if you are a person that you might be in a little bit of a bind with COVID, but you know you're going to come out of it, go ahead and you should have applied for the EIDL, the Economic Injury Disaster Loan. That one would have gone straight through the SBA. You could have got a loan up to $150,000, 3.75% interest rate, 12-month deferral period, and you could have gotten payments of $743 after 1 year, and that loan goes for 30 years. So you would have a $743 payment of essentially for 30 years, which we know you wouldn't keep, but you would have that leeway to not have to be burdened with that. And then my last suggestion is that PPP, we're going to get another round of PPP funding coming out. PPP is essential for business owners at this point in time to maintain their payroll. If you don't want to lay people off, the purpose of the PPP is so you can keep people employed, you can keep going with your business. I myself am a recipient of PPP. I have over 200 nurses and professionals, and the insurance companies stopped paying us as soon as COVID hit. Everybody closed down. So if they're not open, you can't get paid. And you can imagine taking care of 120 people a day with 200 nurses. My payroll is huge. And so PPP came in handy for me. The great thing about PPP is it's 100% forgivable if you use it properly, meaning use it for payroll and approved expenses, and don't use it to buy a new car or truck. And I think you'd be safe. And so I think those are the things that a business owner can do right now during this time to get money. I think those are the easiest programs to access. And I'm sure that Eris might have some other programs. I mean, I'm not a banker. I just know my way around a bank, but I think Eris can probably speak to some other programs for you.
And one more question, Doctor. As people of color and immigrants, we have challenges getting financing for business. What can we do if we don't have long credit history or retirement savings to launch our business?
So the first thing that I did with my business, because it was brand new, is I had to put the money in place to try to get myself 6 months or 12 months on my books so that I could show that it was going to be profitable. So projections are a really great way if you have something to base them off of to move forward. So banks want to see that you have real data and information that you've based your projections off of. And if you can get 3 months, 6 months, where you can show that this business has the potential to make money, get a certified accountant to make you some projections, and then go to the bank. And that makes it a little bit easier to get financing because, and also people, no matter what size your business is, you should always have a business plan updated every single year so that when the bank asks you for it, you're not scrambling to create it. Because when you create it, you make errors. Think about what it is that you're giving somebody. And then also ask yourself, if I was the person lending the money, would I lend money to me? Because that's truly what it all boils down to. The bank is looking at it and saying, this is a risk. Is this a risk that's worth taking? So preparation is your key to success in financing. Have your projections if you're a new business. Have your business plan to back up what you say. and give it to the person. They don't know you. They need to get to know you. And the only way to get to know you is through the papers that you turn in. And the more information that you can give that person about yourself and about where your trajectory for your business is, the better off your opportunities in getting financing are.
Thank you very much for that, Doctor. Thank you for those tips. We're going to, before we wrap up, we're going to hear some final thoughts from our panelists. I ask if you take just a couple of minutes for your final thoughts. Dr. Sharif, why don't we start with you?
So my final thoughts for anybody going into business is this: it's not easy. Every day as an entrepreneur is a challenge. Don't ever think that you're getting into being an entrepreneur is a waste of time, or it's something that you shouldn't be doing. If you believe in yourself and it works out, that's great. If you don't, maybe that's just not the thing that you should be doing now, and maybe you should regroup and think about what you need to do next. Because sometimes people try at something that they're not successful at, and maybe their niche is in something else. You have to think long and hard when you start being an entrepreneur. And so I would say, think about what it is you want to do, embrace it, embrace yourself, believe in yourself, and stay focused. Stay focused, and all great things can happen, because I quit a 6-figure job to do what I'm doing. And I am successful at what I'm doing because I had a focus, I believed in myself, I knew it had potential, and it grew. And I'm thankful for that, and I want you to have that same experience.
Sherry, a couple of moments, final thoughts.
Yeah, that was great, Barbara. I'm hearing about your journey. Finances are the key, and also your mindset. And that's the final thought, is really focusing, and it all comes through how your belief in yourself and your belief in what you're doing, and making sure that you take care of that and nurture it. And you know what I heard in all these conversations, as well as my experience as an entrepreneur since 2002, is really build strong, valuable relationships. Relationships with people that can, you bounce off ideas, that can help you in your business, help you personally. Relationships is the key. And one last thing, I really encourage everyone, after you finish this one section, take 2 things and put them in your calendar that you're going to take action on, because so much great information came just from this 1 hour, and there's going to be so much more coming forward. Without action, these were just all great ideas. So put this in your calendar, take 1 thing, take 2 things, and you'll see the difference that it will make at the end of this conference, and then going forward with your business. Thank you.
Janae, final thoughts?
Yes, I've been thinking more about that question regarding anxiety and how I manage that, and tips. And I actually want to connect it to something Sherry said, in that we don't have to be superwoman, right? And I think for me, I always tried so hard to be perfect that created more stress and anxiety, and it was taking away from what I was actually trying to do and how I was trying to help people. So the thought is that you don't have to be perfect. You just do your best and strive for excellence, and that's good enough. And also, just because we're working from home doesn't mean we should be working more. So focus on priorities, what's most meaningful to you, and commit to making that happen. Thank you.
And Barbara, final thoughts.
I feel like they've all been said, and they've all been great. I would say, don't walk alone. For me, it was finding a partner. Find somebody that can craft your journey with you, or chart your path with you alone, so you're not, going at it solo. Choose your priorities. Like everyone said, you're not going to be perfect in every single way, but prioritize what's important to you. Trust your gut. We women don't listen to our guts enough. Be that voice in the room and trust your own voice. And then finally, make it a family plan. Work with them, not against them. They have to be supporting you all the way, whether it's a partner, a spouse, or your kids. Involve them, include them, and let them know that we're all in this together.
Thank you all for those inspiring thoughts. And I'll turn it over to our workshop sponsor, Eris Sandler, once again from Bank United for closing remarks.
Thank you again, Otto. And thank you to all these amazing panelists. I have to tell you that no matter how long I've been in business and been around, I always learn something from amazing women like each of you. And I have to tell you, I'm particularly impressed with Dr. Sharif, who actually seems to know more about banking than many bankers that I know. So good job. I was blown away. So very, very interesting. But each of our panelists, Barbara Goldberg, Janae Capella, Sherry Roth, and of course, Dr. Barbara Sharif, you know, your presentations were very inspiring, very motivational, and you know, just as been said, there's so many good takeaways. And you know, I made notes myself that reminded me to do things that I haven't done in a long time or even ever. You know, I'm gonna learn to do many things that I think will, you know, help me, and I hope many of you are going to apply what you've learned today and throughout the rest of this program. But now we're going to invite you to check out our virtual exhibit hall, and you'll have an opportunity to see how to get there. And then also, there's going to be a separate registration that you may have signed up for. Just wanted to remind you all. At 10:30, there's a graceful coffee talk, and the topic is, which is, I think, extremely interesting, share one thing you wish you'd known before COVID-19. If you knew then what you know now, what would you have done differently? So that is really a loaded question, and I think you know, many of us could probably, you know, add a lot of value to that discussion. And then also stay logged in for our next workshop, which you see up on the screen, which will take place at 11:30 to 12:30, which is bankruptcy, contract renegotiations, and other legal tools to survive. Another super important aspect of what we're going through right now. And then finally, make sure that you register and join us next Wednesday, which is August 12th, for another round of information, connection, and inspiration. And with that, I just want to say thank you to everyone and be well. Thank you.